Hey guys, I'll have you all know I have been upgraded. I have a stool now, so I will be leaning instead of standing here. So I know you're all jealous. Please leave your comments. But it's gonna be back. Feels like it's been a little while, 2 weeks, and today we're gonna be talking about control groups. So, as always, I want to hear from you guys. First of all, how is everybody? Hopefully, everybody's doing well. And have you heard of control groups? Have you used them before? I'd love to know more. Uh-oh, William hasn't. That's okay. We'll talk about it today. Let's see who else is here. Oh, Kevin's here. We got a whole party. Yep. Yep. Okay. So I mean, I've told this when I was with a funk band for a while. I used to tell them a no response means no. So it sounds like this is all going to be relatively new for you guys. Oh, Les says, yep, I use control groups. Les, if you're willing to share, I'd love to hear how you're using them or how you've been using them or where you've been using them before. Palmer says control groups, yes. Probably could use a support group too. Yeah, me too. Me too, Palmer. I'm sure Les is probably typing, but while people are kind of typing, I'll just kind of go over what today's class will be over. So of course, we're going to be talking about control groups. You saw it in the email, you're seeing it on the slide now. We're going to be talking about control groups, particularly how it relates to the AHM64, but it will also kind of lightly talk on like mixing consoles as well. So we'll kind of just really quickly go over the definition. It's pretty self-explanatory, but sometimes you gotta say it for the room. We'll talk about uses. I'll show you guys the HM64's version, and we will go over a little, again, some of the sound console versions. And I also have a couple of IP controllers set up, and I've got other stuff. We'll kind of, unlock why we might want to use custom control, why we might want to use control groups. Okay, so Les has responded and says, I have a couple of mute groups set up, DCAs galore, a couple of gangs. Yep, those are all perfect. Gangs are a perfect addition. I actually don't have gangs on my slide, and I may have to make a note of that. Okay, so let's kind of jump in. So, control groups. You guys may be shocked to find out that group control is used via control groups. But I mean, more formally, control groups allow us to express control over different parameters, whether it be just like less, mute groups or DCAs, gangs, like they're typically kind of levels, mutes, cross points, which I might argue is also levels, but that kind of thing, sort of basic control over things that we change often. And when you leave the live sound world and you start going into like Pro Tools, for instance, Pro Tools groups are even more different there. You can kind of control almost any parameter you want. But studio's a different world anyway, so we won't go into that. And essentially you have to ask yourself, if you have more than one thing that you'd like to control easily, control groups are probably your answer. So on sound consoles, and this includes, I won't even name names, other manufacturers might have something that they call control groups, and I assume that they act very similarly. I've worked on other consoles that have control groups. Again, the functionality transfers easily between manufacturers for the most part. Heath specifically, as well as many other manufacturers, have, just like Les was kind of saying, just like Palmer was saying, DCAs or VCAs, if you're still on analog stuff. VCAs are digitally controlled amplifiers, and those are essentially remote fader controls. There's no audio running through them, and that's really the biggest difference between DCAs and subgroups, is that subgroups have audio running through them, and DCAs are truly just remote control of a fader someplace. So we've got that, and then also mute groups and gangs, as Les said. I didn't put that on there. So mute groups are very popular in live mixing consoles to easily mute things like bands or vocalists, you know, when they're walking off stage, you don't want to necessarily hear all that rumble and that noise. So it's very common that we use mute groups for that, or for effects, other stuff. I don't like putting effects on mute groups, but that's a different presentation. But yeah, I mean, again, control groups, if we want to have more than one thing that we want to control easily, either with a fader or a button, control groups are kind of our best friend. So AHM specifically. You guys have heard me mention AHM 64. I talked about it. I did a couple of things very specific to AHM 64 in the first semester. And as we get ready for the kind of the next round of classes, I'll probably do more AHM 64 stuff explicitly. But for those that don't know, AHM 64 is Allen and Heath matrix. It's a matrix processor. It's really just shy of a console in a box, and doesn't have effects or anything like that. But it's a way to basically do a lot of audio processing in a very easy and manageable way. It's this like hybrid between traditional DSPs for like install work and DSPs used for live sound. It's definitely lies in between there. So the HM64 has 64 inputs and 64 output buses that we call zones. And you can kind of see that on the picture I have here on the slide. But control groups, specifically on the HM64, they're called control groups, and we have 32 of them, which is a very good number. And we can assign inputs, outputs, and cross points, and you can see that on the picture as well. And so we've got kind of different levels of control, and probably most importantly, we can assign these control groups to custom control or an IP controller and things like that. So slides are fun. Everybody loves slides, but let's go look at some other stuff. So let's leave here, go over there. Let's pop this up. So if I go over here, this is, we're looking right now at System Manager. And in fact, let me stop this, and then I'll share just the application so you guys can see it better. There we go. Now you guys should be good. I'll make this bigger for my sake. Okay, so here we've got all of our inputs, and we've got all of our zones, and you can see we actually have just a little area of just control groups. And I can scroll through here and see all of them. I have some of them assigned to do things, and I have many that I haven't programmed. Yeah, this is my ultimate config file where I've got like 5 or 6 different like venue things happening in one configuration on the same unit. So let's say that we wanted to use control groups, knowing that we want to give control over something to maybe either a musician or somebody who perhaps will use the control for an auditorium or a lobby, something like that. Something we want to make things again as easy as possible. That's really the sake of, you know, we have all these options in all of our gear, HM64, SQ, Avanta, C-Live. We have all of these different control options, and options are great, but sometimes people who are less technically savvy need as little as possible. And so this is one of those tools that can help us. So I'm going to actually go all the way to the end, just so I don't touch any of the stuff I'm already doing. It could be as easy as me selecting it and saying, okay, let's do, this is completely random. I'll just call it music, and I'm going to make it green because why not? And I can do edit assign inputs, or I can edit assign zones. And you'll see down here, I can actually do cross point assignment as well. But for this exact second, we'll just do some inputs. So I've got all of my inputs here, and I can do them in blocks if I want, or I can pick them individually. So this is music. So maybe let's put everything I have ever labeled music in here. That's music. That's music. That says music. I think that's all of them. All right, I'll hit OK. So now I've got this. I've got music assigned to it. And now if I go and look at inputs, let me make sure I don't get myself lost. Okay, so I have, what did I put in there? Oh yeah, let's start with tunes. So I'll go to my inputs, and I'll go to tunes, go to my cross points here. Go over here. There we go. We let you know when, hey, like this is assigned to a control group. just as a warning. And it says right now that I just have it at unity. Like I'm not changing anything about it. If I go back to my control groups and drop this down, let's say -9, let's do a weird number. And I go back to my inputs. Now it says, hey, you're in the music control group and it's down -9. And it even shows a little red arrow saying, hey, this is the difference. This is the difference you're actually doing. And so I can move this and the red arrow moves along with me because I am changing kind of how it's being processed. I'm actually dropping it by 9 additional decibels. Or if I put it upwards, of course, I would be adding some onto it. So let's leave that. And let's add the same one to another group. So we're going to basically assign it to multiple groups. Music 2. I did assign inputs. I'll just put this tunes one in here for the sake of demonstration. Go to inputs. And now it says, hey, FYI, you're doing this, which I appreciate. I appreciate that it's letting me know. And you will actually see you're kind of, I guess since music 2's at, let's go mess with it. Let's say, let's do -41. Yeah, let's see what happens there. And so all together, they're being added together because they are both control groups are saying, hey, you're supposed to be dropping this. You're down a lot, 50 decibels. And maybe I want to do, so remember how it said I can do cross point assignment as well. If I go to my assign tab and I go to cross points, my bad, control groups, I can actually go and hit this and say, hey, if you wanted to assign a cross point, which would be on a regular console, this would be the send level. So you could think of this as like a monitor feed of like how much of input 1 is going into these monitors. Cross point. That's what it is in this zone, in this fixture. And I can do a combined, as in all of my control groups, like this is what's happening in all of them, or I can look at it specifically, hey, this is what's going on in 32, and I don't have any cross points in there. And this was kind of fun because I was playing with this earlier, of course, in preparation for this. I'll hit combined, and let's say we were doing, we're playing at the end here. I don't want to get anything in the way. Well, we'll just do this. Okay, so I'll click this. And so I'm sending input 7, which is, I have unlabeled. It's just some hash marks. And I'm sending it to auditorium. So it says for input 7 to zone 1. I can say, which control groups do you actually want to change that? And so, yeah, why not? Let's do this music one. So I'll hit okay. And now it'll actually say, hey, control group 32 is also controlling this. Or I can go here, and if I have multiple ones selected, it'll just come up blank. It'll just say, you'll have to click on it to see, because you could have 32 control groups assigned to it. So I think this is really helpful, especially you're just, hey, again, I want to give control to somebody specifically, like this very interesting set. It's like a way of combining different kinds of parameters we want to control. So maybe we have house music going to a lot of different places, and we want those places, a lobby, we'll say we want them to be able to change the level of that music in the lobby. Well, I could give them control of the house music, but then that would change the level of house music everywhere it was going. In a way, we can circumvent it. One of the 2 ways we can circumvent that with the HM64 is via control groups. So let's say, and I'll even show you guys, I got some IP controllers for you guys out. And so I will even go to configure, and I will go to my controllers. We're looking at IP6, so I will go there and we can play around with this. So maybe I want to put, one of my control group levels here. So I will do this. We will do a control group level, and I can pick which control group. So let's do 32 music, and you'll see it appear, and it actually shows up in the same color. And I can adjust this, and let me open up over here, control groups. And you can see as I'm moving the knob, it's actually moving it inside of System Manager as well. For those that like really fancy stuff, I have the IP8 also set up. And also, just in case if you guys aren't familiar, these are our IP controllers, the IP6 and the IP8. We also have something called an IP1. I'll make you guys look at me while I'm saying this. An IP6, an IP8, and an IP1 are these proprietary controllers that we make that use TCP/IP to help send control values between a lot of our equipment, between basically HM64, Avantis, and DLive. We can control things with these little controllers. So it's a nice option when you want to have a physical touch of something. So, all right, enough of me. Back to this. I can do the same kind of thing. So I can go over to configure. Now I'll go to my IP8s. And let's see, I've got a couple of my wireless controls on there. Let's just do this one. I can do a control group level. And we will do music 2. It's red now because that's the color of my control group. And maybe I want to put, let's see here. I can do a control group level up or down to give them incremental steps if I didn't want to let them have free reign. Or I could do a control group mute. I can click that. And again, we'll just do music 2. And I can even invert it. So it's basically like an on switch or a mute switch. And you can actually kind of see that lighting up on the IP8. And I can make it basically a toggle or a latch. So, and I will hop back over here. We'll go to channels, control groups. So now when I do this fader, you can see it changing as well. And I can mute it. Ooh, magical. It's not magic, it's technology. So, and that's just a couple of options. I can also do custom control. And if you're not familiar with that, that's where you can basically make your own application that will run these kinds of similar controls that I can do whatever I want. I can make it whatever I want, and give them a physical, not a physical, but a touch interface instead. And I mean, who would I be if I didn't also show you guys that? I think I've already made one. Let's go over here. Connecting to my HM64. Well, let me move my camera up so I'm not struggling. Ah, that's better. Okay. I threw this together in all of 30 seconds. I will place that there. And I will show you guys custom control in lightning speed. So I'm going to stop sharing this and I'm going to share my screen again with you guys. But this time it'll just be my whole screen. There we go. Custom control. And we'll download this from the unit. 2 weeks ago, my computer exploded. So far, we're doing well. All right, we will download from the unit from my HM64. Thank you. All right, that's what I just made. And so I can add control groups here. So maybe I want to have a fader that I'm just dragging in here. And we will, let me move this little window. It will be a control group. Let's do 32 because that's what we're playing with right now. And I'll make this ginormous. There we go. Just really obnoxious and in the way. And I will do a button here and let's do that mute control group. See, this already knows what I want. So let's do 31. All right. Then I'm going to hit file upload and you'll see it flash on my camera. As soon as I upload, ta-da. Now I've got my buttons and now I can move this again. I can go over to System Manager and I can hit these buttons and it's muting it when I'm touching it and it's adjusting the fader when I'm touching that as well. And so again, I can do all sorts of stuff with this. If I want to have multiple control sections or multiple parameters that I want to control at once, or I want to simplify something for somebody who's using it who they really don't need 6 faders. That's going to be way too much. Maybe I just put, just give them a wireless control group and just say, here's the control for the wireless. Don't worry about the 4 channels. Like this is fine. And I can do things like that. Or I can do these cross points and give them a little bit more advanced without them knowing it's more advanced. Or maybe I'm just feeling a little lazy and I don't want to have to go and find everything. Just like the mute groups. I mean, when I have a mute group, it's because I want to mute a bunch of things at once without having to stick like 10 fingers on mutes all at the same time. Like it's all in the name of ease and control. So uh, I will open the floor now. If you guys have any questions, anything you want to see, we kind of hit lots of different little pieces, but the floor is yours.